Have you ever wondered what to say to realtors? I've put together, after listening to over 75 of live recordings from our clients' live realtor meetings, I have nailed down a proven method for what to say to our realtors on the meetings with them based on our most successful clients that have actually turned strangers into actual consistent realtors that are sending them business on a consistent basis. And so this is really the framework, a 7-point framework that you can use on your calls with realtors that has been proven to work based on 75 plus calls that I've listened to from our clients in the last 5 months. And so take all of this here, the knowledge that I've condensed down to be able to use it to really increase the amount of realtors that you're able to convert into actual referral partners. So let's get right into it. The first thing and what I've seen as a consistent thing in all of our clients meetings is the introduction. The introduction is really the part that will make it either an uphill battle or will make it very a lot easier as a result of how you start off. Right, the start really creates the tempo of the entire meeting. And I'll give you an example. Right, I've listened to our most successful clients, and I've listened to the ones that are kind of newer off, need a little bit more guidance, right? And what I've seen is that with our more successful clients, the ones that are able to consistently land realtor meetings and be able to, sorry, not land realtor meetings, they're able to land realtor partners, is they are able to have a great introduction. What do I mean by this? They are able to properly introduce themselves. They come in with great energy, great tonality. They come off as a trusted advisor, someone who's an expert in their field, someone who comes off as very sharp. The tonality is really great there. And what I've seen is when we don't have that, right? Because I've listened to our other clients who didn't do as well. It can very easily get to a point of where the realtor is confused in the way that explain in the way that explain what the call's about and all of that stuff, or they explain what they do and all that stuff, or they might get straight into it. A very common mistake is kind of diving right into a pitch and going straight into what they do, and not really learning anything about the realtor, how they can help that realtor. It's a very common mistake that I've seen. But the introduction, it has to be strong, it has to be said with great tonality, and it clearly says who you are, what you do, how you can help them, and how you are different. Those are pretty consistent ones that I've seen across the board with our successful clients that have been able to convert realtors at the highest level. And the next section, discovery. So this is one that I call discovery because it's really like the fact finding section of the call, right? The section where they're really just learning about the realtor, right? A little bit about their background. A lot of the rapport is built here as well. Maybe where they're from, how long they've been in the industry, if they work with investors, or what kind of clientele they work with, all of those kind of different things, their interests and hobbies. All of these things are really talked about in the discovery portion, and it's really an area for this area of the call is really the biggest part where the rapport is being built. I've seen hands down a lot of I can say the clients that have seen the most success on the realtor meetings have a really great way of building rapport and finding connections between themselves and that realtor. And oftentimes I can always hear that it's a successful call when they have the realtor laughing, right? If they have the realtor, they're both, sharing laughter and being able to joke around. It really is one of those things where they end up working really well together and they mesh really well. So this discovery portion is very important for building rapport, but also finding a couple of the basic kind of situational questions with the realtor, right? Kind of like all the basics, like, where are you from? What areas do you work? Do you work with mostly buyers or sellers? Like all of those different questions. Now, the next one is qualifying. So hands down, all our successful clients, they all qualify. They all want to see, more or less how much the realtor is producing, kind of the caliber of realtor, but more so than that, the type of personality as well. They're kind of filtering for through their questions what kind of realtor this is and how they work, right? And and that actually will lead to a smooth transition to the next one, because as they begin to ask what kind of realtors, what kind of lenders do they work with currently, what do they like about them, what they don't like about them, they're eliciting these values from the realtors and seeing who do they like to work with, right? And so the most common next step is finding, okay, so what's the problem, right? What's the thing that's missing from their current lender relationships, right? Because oftentimes, right, especially for our clients, when we book them these meetings with someone who hasn't heard of them, who possibly hasn't heard of them before, right? Someone who's completely cold, the realtor is taking that meeting for a reason, right? They're not meeting and or wasting their time just to, meet with a stranger, right? They have some sort of thing that's missing with their current lender relationships that the really excellent clients, the ones that are really good at building those relationships, are able to really probe and see what is that exact thing that is missing from their lender relationships. Because what I've seen is, as I've listened to a lot of these calls, the realtors aren't going to just outright say it, right? And they're not going to outright just, tell you directly, right? You have to really probe and see and be able to see what specific scenarios keep happening, or the lenders keep messing up, and they might need assistance with. So once you have that problem, then it transitions into the presentation. Now, this takes into many forms. Some of our clients, they have pitch decks. Some of our clients do Zoom meetings. Some of them do phones. Some of them even do lunch and learn. Some of them do in-person lunch meetings for the presentation phase, right? What I've seen, and I can say confidently, is it doesn't matter what the format of the presentation is. What matters more is really how clearly you communicate and position yourself, and position the value that you provide to the realtor, right? Because a lot of our clients, they only do phone calls, right? They hate Zoom. Others love Zoom, but the ones that are really successful at taking these calls with realtors and be able to and connect and build these relationships with them, they do an excellent job at being able to clearly convey the value that they give to the realtor, right? And oftentimes, I've seen a lot of them. It's consistent what they're saying on the phone, right? A lot of them, some of them might have a script, some of them might not have a script. They all have a consistent thing that they all say on those calls, right? After listening to various of these recordings from several clients, I can tell you that they all say similar things that work, that they've seen work from the realtors' feedbacks. I've even had, if you've seen other of our videos where I have client interviews, and we have clients like Daniel, who's, after a couple meetings, he starts to dial in what really resonated the most with agents, and he started saying more of that, and it started working. Other clients like Dwayne, who kind of never did anything like this before, and after several meetings, he started to really dial in a pitch to be able to give to the realtors. And this is really where it's made, right? The pitch is the presentation. And so clearly communicating, conveying the value is the most important part of this section of the call, right? And then after that, really, it's just really opening up the floor to the realtor to ask, to have a discussion, to have more of a Q&A, really, about what you just presented. And then the last part, and this is one that I've seen that most often maybe the newer LOs might miss. Definitely not our guys that have been doing it for a while. They always, quote unquote, ask for the sale. And that's just a term I gave to really just laying out the next steps and really moving the relationship forward. Quite often, some of our clients might ask like, hey, so what I see as the best way moving forward on this relationship is being able to see this with, be able to put this in place that I just talked about, X, and X, putting all of this in place. with your next home buyer. That way you can see our excellent communication, you can see our X and Y. That's usually how they'll do it, or they'll lay out the next steps. They all have different ways that they say it, but hands down, all of them ask for the sale, right? They move the relationship forward, and they don't leave it up to chance, right? It's either, realtor either likes what they presented and they're willing to give them a shot, or they don't, right? Oftentimes they do, right? If they presented it well, then the realtor say yes, right? And that's where they can, move it to a follow-up call. Then that's where they can move it to the next steps, whatever it might be for each client, and each loan officer is different in the way that they do that. But they all of them did not miss the step, and it's a very common one that I see across maybe some of the newer guys. They did miss this step, and then it becomes very easy for the realtor to maybe like ghost them, or maybe even delay in sending referrals, just because this part was missed. So that's why I want to put this section here, because it's a very important one, and it's one that shouldn't be missed, especially at the end of the call. You want to get a kind of an idea of where the realtor is at. The last one is called looping, and this one you might have heard of as a term. It's coined by Jordan Belfort. All it is just answering the questions of the realtor, and they might be logistical, they might be related to programs, or they might be related to maybe some concerns that they have, or maybe some doubts, all of those different things. And the best clients, what I've seen, the best performing ones, that do an excellent job with this, is they're really good at transferring certainty to the realtors, right? And across the board, and I kid you not, this was something I have not, it wasn't something that I'm sure they all didn't communicate to do it. They all didn't get together in a group and decide to do this, but they, hands down, I would say 80% of them used in some way or form stories to be able to communicate their certainty for being able to get the job done. And they either gave an example of a scenario that they had in the past. They gave some scenario where they had a hard to do loan, and like other lenders weren't able to do it, and they came in last minute and was able to be the hero and save the day. And it sounded something along those lines, and that worked really well. It really, you can hear by the realtor's voice, it really conveyed a lot of certainty, give a lot of trust to the realtor as well. And so a lot of the most successful clients that do really excellent with realtors, they do a really good job at the end of the call, really making sure that the realtor feels confident in actually referring business, right? They feel confident in this person. They feel that trust. They are all really excellent of conveying trust, and making sure that's reinforced by using stories. That's a very common thing that I've seen across a lot of the loan officers that are doing really excellent with converting realtors into referral partners, is using stories as a way to really convey the value, and not just telling the realtor that they're good and they have good communication, but showing them through stories. So I hope that you found this valuable. This is something that I've condensed down after listening to audios of our clients' Zoom meetings and their phone calls, and seeing what are some of those consistent themes that come across and what works, right? And this is the 7 points that I've seen across all the really our clients that have seen exceptional results. This is really the framework behind it. And I always preach doing some sort of framework, right? Because you're going to be saying something consistent anyways, right? If you just have 2 or 3 calls, you can really wing it, because you're only talking to 2 or 3. And if they're your buddies, they're probably not they're going to cut you a lot of slack. But if you're talking to, let's say, like our clients do 15 plus realtors per month, it gets to the point where you need to have something consistent and something that works and that realtors really resonate with. If not, it just kind of becomes something where you kind of just wing it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We always preach to have some sort of framework in place. So I hope this brings a lot of value to your business. And if you are looking for 15 plus appointments with realtors like our clients do, I'll leave a link below so you can schedule a call, learn more about what we have to offer and how we can bring you more realtor meetings. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it brings a ton of value. Feel free to share this with other loan officers as well. That could also benefit if you know someone who does take a lot of realtor meetings, is doing the cold call and very proactive with the referral partnerships. I'm certain this will also help them as well to grow their mortgage business.